You gotta see this one. There's an ongoing trend where students attend public speaking events and Q&As not because they're interested in what the speaker has to say, but to outright attack them and disrupt the event, just because they hold a different viewpoint. Now that's the result of a lot of people's ideas taking over their campuses, which is marked by the inability to tolerate opposing perspectives. That's what happened with Ben Shapiro, where a student was trying to disguise himself under the guise of a person who's genuinely curious and wants to ask questions, but was quick to lose his temper and curse the crowd. But before I delve deeper into it, make sure to subscribe for more discussions just like this.
Before I ask my question, so do you come from Holocaust survivors, or are you a Jewish family that didn't?
So my great-great-grandparents arrived here. A lot of our extended family was killed in the Holocaust, but our immediate family.
Your great-great-grandparents, but not your grandparents.
Right.
Oh, do you have friends whose grandparents were Holocaust survivors or anything like that?
Of course, many of them. Yeah, I've helped write memoirs of Holocaust survivors.
Yeah. Their families are kind of messed up, right? Like my family is very messed up.
I mean, if you go through a trauma like the Holocaust, I would imagine
they teach that trauma between generations. You know what I mean?
Well, I mean, trauma very often in a lot of circumstances is passed down. I mean, I know some kids of Holocaust survivors who turned out fantastic and some who didn't. I mean,
yeah. Okay, so you are officially woke. That is what wokeness is about. It's like, people's grandparents or their great-grandparents were slaves.
Well, it's okay. No, it's okay.
I'm talking.
Guys, I actually want to hear. I want to hear.
No, this.
It's okay. It's okay. I want to hear. Let's at least hear the argument. Let's hear it. Let's hear it. Go.
What? He wants to hear me?
I do want to hear it. It's fine. Let him go. Let's hear it.
Come on. I'll just.
Explain how that's woke.
So, I mean, the whole thing is like, let's see. So during Silent Calvin Coolidge's administration, do you know about like the Great Mississippi Flood back in the 1930s?
I understand that American history is filled with racial evil.
Yeah. And that causes some intergenerational trauma, which affects people's ability to be, effective, things like that.
Fine. So let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
So if the idea is that history has consequences, of course that's true. That's not wokeness.
Yeah.
That is not wokeness. What wokeness suggests is that fundamental institutions in American society
are so... No, it doesn't.
Yes, it 100% does.
I ran Elizabeth Warren's campaign. I helped organize her volunteers around here. I am a representative of wokeness.
Okay. Well,
and that's this is all it is.
Calling the families of people who experience past injustices as messed up is beyond insensitive. That alone gives away the intentions of this student, and as a true representative of the woke mentality, he's focusing on promoting a victimhood mentality, since society for them is made of oppressors and the oppressed. Another core aspect of this mentality is the emphasis on identity politics, where individuals are always categorized based on their race, gender, sexual orientation, and other identity markers. This creates an us versus them dynamic, and individuals are judged primarily by their group identifying rather than their personal experience or character. While it is essential to acknowledge and address real injustices, the victimhood narrative can sometimes exaggerate or oversimplify complex issues, leading to a polarized and fragmented society. You see, when people are constantly portrayed as victims or oppressors, it becomes challenging to find common ground or work towards collective goals. Additionally, the narratives serve a negative role as they disempower individuals by encouraging them to see themselves primarily as victims of circumstance rather than as agents of change. Thus, it leads to a culture of dependency and entitlement where personal responsibility and resilience are undervalued.
I mean,
when I went to go get my first tattoo, the guy had lightning bolts and 88s tattooed on his neck. And as a Jewish person, that's really messed up. It's basically a threat.
There are racist people who exist. The argument that you're making, and I'm going to close with this because this is going in weird directions, and I don't really want to.
No, it's not going in a weird direction.
Just hold up a second. I let you get out your arguments, and now it's time for me to respond because I let you say the full argument.
Okay, I'll let you respond, but
no, not but. Now's my turn.
You are not characterizing what I'm saying accurately.
Now it's my turn. Your definition is inaccurate. The reason your definition is inaccurate is because any sentient human being would acknowledge that history has consequences.
Right.
But if the idea is, but that's not what wokeism is. Wokeism is a different thing. Wokeism suggests that all inequalities of today are attributable to not only historic injustices, but also continuing injustices in the now, and that all disparity is attributable to discrimination.
Like that, but a conservative.
Not just that.
A conservative is the only person. I want to know why. Why is it that conservatives are the only people who define it like that? Why are conservatives
Okay, so we're gonna have to stop here because this is going nowhere. But
What's up?
I'm gonna have to stop with this with you because this is going nowhere. All I'm going to say is this.
I just am trying to understand your perspective.
Let me just cut it for a second to say that this guy is not here to understand anyone's perspective. He has a radical ideological point of view and wants to be imposed on everyone's present there. People like him believe that their views on social politics, justice, identity politics, and progressive issues are not only morally superior, but also indisputable, just like a good communist would. Consequently, they view any counterargument as not just a difference of opinion, but as a fundamental moral failing. This certainly can lead to an echo chamber effect where they only interact with like-minded individuals, reinforce their beliefs. As a result, they become increasingly intolerant of the ideas that challenge their worldview, perceiving such challenges as personal attacks rather than opportunities for intellectual growth. That's why they resort to tactics such as canceling someone, aggressive protests, and boycotts as a method to silence and punish those who express opposing viewpoints. This behavior creates an environment where open debate is limited, and people are discouraged from voicing different opinions for fear of backlash. The woke mind also demands that nations and people face up to their criminal histories, and in the process reaches the conclusion that all history is criminal. But if we cannot acknowledge that progress has been made in history, we are unlikely to believe it can be made in the future, which is paradoxical and further proves how this ideology doesn't have any legs to stand on.
Just one more second.
On a fundamental level, you're shifting definitions to avoid the consequences of your own argument. And if the idea is... And final point, if you are going to... Hold on. If you are also, just final point to sum up there. Final point to sum.
I can follow that.
Yeah, I just want to make, honestly,
Go ahead.
I want to make one final point to sum up there. If the idea is that traumas of the past invariably bleed down into the present, that does not explain why certain groups that have been historically not only marginalized but slaughtered in mass genocide are some of the most successful groups in our society. So if the idea is... If the idea is that past trauma always equals current inequality, or that my actions in, say, robbing a convenience store are attributable to bad actions that happened in Alabama in 1930, the answer to that is no. Don't rob the convenience store. The only way they are going to be able to break the chain of history is to make good decisions. What people on the left don't like to talk about is actual solutions. What they like to do is bitch about problems that existed 60 years ago and blame those for failures to solve them now.
Ben is absolutely correct here. Relying on historical traumas to justify current inequalities or one's own conditions is deeply flawed and counterproductive. This approach lacks substantial data or research to support its validity. According to APA Division 56 President Diane Costello, quote, "While trauma researchers have made great strides in understanding and treating single-episode present-life trauma, they are just beginning to explore the impact of intergenerational trauma and its expression. This is also coming from a person who has studied and treated combat-related PTSD for 30 years. While no one denies the existence of such traumas, it's evident that it's an understudied field, and extensively focusing on them restricts an individual's potential to lead a meaningful and successful life. This perspective also disregards the complexity and multifaceted nature of modern inequality, where socioeconomic status, educational attainment, personal choices, and a multitude of other factors play significant roles in determining individual outcomes. By attributing current inequalities solely to historical traumas, we oversimplify these complex issues and overlook the nuanced realities that shape people's lives today. This mindset can lead to a defeatist attitude where people believe they are powerless to change their circumstance, thereby limiting their motivation to strive for success and personal growth. I don't know if endlessly talking about past injustice leads to much substantive result. This doesn't really mean we shouldn't acknowledge them, but putting them at the core of the existence of an individual is kind of the wrong approach in my opinion. A more constructive way would involve empowering individuals, encouraging resilience, and addressing modern issues with actionable solutions. But what are your thoughts? Did Ben do the right thing by getting this woke student off the stage? Let's get the conversation rolling in the comments down below.